Hidden beneath the mountains of the Caucasus lies a world so deep that reaching its bottom takes days of dangerous exploration. It is the deepest cave ever discovered on Earth, a place of darkness, underground rivers, vertical shafts, and environments that few humans have ever seen. Veryovkina Cave is unlike any other place on Earth. Hidden beneath the rugged Veryovkina Massif in Abkhazia, deep within the Caucasus Mountains, it plunges to a measured depth of 2,212 meters, making it the deepest cave ever explored by humans. This is a vertical world so vast that its true scale can be hard to grasp. If the Burj Khalifa were placed inside the cave, it still would not reach the surface. 3 of the world's tallest skyscrapers, stacked end to end, would vanish in its darkness, swallowed by the limestone heart of the massif. The entrance sits high on a remote slope, but the cave itself drops far below sea level, carving a path through ancient rock for more than 2 kilometers straight down. Here, the familiar world vanishes almost immediately, replaced by tight corridors, yawning shafts, and the endless pull of gravity. This is not just a hole in the ground. It is a realm that dwarfs human architecture and imagination. The cave and the massif above it are the only witnesses to what lies below. Everything that follows in this story is driven by the simple, daunting fact of this depth. A challenge that called explorers to test the limits of what humans can reach, and a mystery that science is still working to understand. The story of Veryovkina Cave began quietly, with a Soviet expedition from Krasnoyarsk stumbling upon its entrance in 1968. At first, it was just another numbered shaft on a remote mountain, surveyed to a depth of 115 meters before being left to the elements. But the Veryovkina Massif had a way of drawing people back. In the 1980s, the Veryovkina Club from Moscow returned with new ambitions and better equipment, determined to push beyond the early limits. By 1986, they had extended the known depth to 440 meters, each descent revealing more of the cave's hidden vertical world. Through the following decades, progress came in careful increments. Teams from across the region, and eventually from abroad, launched more than 30 expeditions into the massif. Each journey brought new maps, deeper camps, and the slow accumulation of knowledge. The cave's reputation grew with every meter gained. In the caving world, Veryovkina became a proving ground, a place where patience, technical skill, and collective effort counted for more than individual heroics. The tradition of the Veryovkina expeditions, with their meticulous logs and shared discoveries, set a standard for the community. Rival teams watched each other's progress closely, spurred on by the possibility of a new record, but also by a shared respect for the scale of the challenge. No single breakthrough defined Veryovkina's conquest. Instead, the depth was earned step by step, year after year, as ropes were anchored deeper, obstacles were mapped, and the boundaries of the possible were quietly redrawn. The deepest point was not a prize snatched in a single moment, but the result of decades of persistence, an achievement built on the accumulated ambition of a generation of explorers. The descent begins with a vertical plunge. The entrance is a narrow shaft, 3 by 4 meters across, dropping 32 meters straight down before the cave even begins to widen. There is no gentle slope or winding corridor. Instead, there is an abrupt transition from daylight to absolute darkness. Ropes are anchored, carabiners clipped, and the team lowers themselves into the silence, headlamps carving thin beams through the black. What follows is not a single tunnel, but a sequence of vertical drops, one stacked atop the next. The passage narrows, then opens again, each section demanding precise teamwork. The Babatunda pit, a defining feature of Veryovkina, yawns beneath their feet. This shaft alone falls for 155 meters, its walls coated with calcite from centuries of dripping water. Here, gravity is relentless. Ropes stretch downward into a space so deep that voices fade before they reach the bottom. Below the Babatunda, the cave becomes a layered labyrinth. The route threads through fissures and galleries, each one separated by sudden vertical pitches. The sense of scale is disorienting. The team moves as a disciplined unit, passing gear, checking knots, and maintaining contact by radio and rope. At around 1,400 meters, the descent meets a new obstacle, a flooded corridor, the first of several water-filled passages that split the upper dry system from the lower depths. Progress slows as divers prepare to cross the sump. Beyond it, the cave resumes its vertical drop, with narrow galleries and more shafts leading toward the deepest point. The goal is the terminal sump, a still, black pool at over 2 kilometers below the surface. Every step brings the team closer to the edge of the known world, where water, stone, and darkness converge at the bottom of the Earth's deepest cavern. Inside Veryovkina, survival depends on discipline and endurance as much as technical skill. The darkness is complete. Once the last trace of daylight fades, the only illumination comes from headlamps and battery-powered lanterns. The cave's temperature hovers just below freezing, chilling breath and numbing hands within minutes. Every action is measured, every movement deliberate, because mistakes here are costly and fatigue accumulates quickly. The journey is never a single push. Reaching the bottom and returning to the surface can take 10 days or more. Progress means hauling heavy packs loaded with food, emergency supplies, and spare batteries through a maze of vertical shafts and narrow passages. The team relies on a network of fixed ropes, over 2 kilometers in total, anchored at every major drop. These ropes are the expedition's lifeline, used to ascend, descend, and haul equipment between camps. Each section is checked for wear and tension, because a frayed line in the wrong place can put lives at risk. Underground camps are not a luxury, they are a necessity. Tucked onto ledges or inside widened galleries, these camps offer brief shelter from the cold and a place to regroup. Crews rotate in shifts, with some members advancing the descent while others rest, eat high-calorie meals, and monitor oxygen levels. The air grows thin at depth, and pockets of elevated carbon dioxide can sap energy and cloud judgment. Ventilation fans and carbon dioxide scrubbers become as important as climbing gear. Teamwork is the foundation of survival. Every rope is double-checked, every command repeated, every haul coordinated. Communication is clipped and precise, carried by radio through stone. In this environment, timing and cooperation are not just best practices, they are the difference between a safe return and disaster. The hardship is constant, but so is the collective discipline that keeps the team moving deeper into the unknown. Veryovkina's vastness is not a random accident. The cave owes its existence to the unique chemistry of the Veryovkina Massif, a mountain built almost entirely of ancient limestone. Over millions of years, rainwater, made slightly acidic by carbon dioxide from the air and soil, seeped into tiny cracks in the rock. Bit by bit, this water dissolved the limestone, enlarging fractures and carving out a web of passages. As the regional water table dropped over geological time, these channels grew deeper and steeper, leaving behind a vertical labyrinth that stretches more than 2 kilometers beneath the surface. The evidence of this slow transformation is everywhere underground. Walls are marked with scallop-shaped patterns, showing the direction of ancient water flow. Massive mineral formations, such as stalactites, flowstones, and crystal crusts, record past climates and changes in the cave's hydrology. Some chambers bear the signature of ancient floods, now high and dry, frozen in stone. Yet stone and water are only part of the story. Even in perpetual darkness, life has found a way. Researchers have discovered rare organisms adapted to the cave's harsh conditions, blind crustaceans, resilient arthropods, and entire microbial communities that thrive in the cold, mineral-rich mud. These microbes are not just survivors. They drive chemical cycles that shape the cave itself. For scientists, Veryovkina is more than a record-setting abyss. It is a living archive, preserving the story of water, rock, and life in one of Earth's last true frontiers. A sudden rainstorm on the surface can send a surge of water racing through the cave's passages, turning narrow corridors into roaring rivers and trapping even the most experienced team with little warning. In September 2018, a breakfast was interrupted by the distant sound of rushing water. Within half an hour, the lower chambers flooded, forcing an emergency retreat. Rockfall is a constant threat, with limestone slabs and stalactites sometimes breaking loose after centuries, falling without warning. Cold is relentless. Temperatures hover below freezing, and hypothermia can set in quickly, especially when exhaustion slows the body's response. Deep underground, rescue is a race against time and gravity. Every meter of rope and every vertical shaft multiplies the difficulty. Extraction must be done by hand, in stages, with each delay stretching hours into days. Even with modern gear, the cave is never truly tamed. Its full extent remains only partly mapped, and its dangers only partly understood. Here, achievement and risk are inseparable, and the cave allows passage only on its own terms. Beneath our feet, a world deeper than the Burj Khalifa stretches into darkness, still largely unknown. As technology advances, these hidden frontiers remind us how much remains unexplored. Every descent isn't just a journey into stone, but a step toward understanding the planet's last untouched mysteries. What would you discover down there?